Hello, I'm Linda, 37 years old, and I work from home. My husband, Jonathan, and I have been happily married for 5 years. Though we don't have children yet, we enjoy a comfortable life, with our dual incomes allowing us to indulge in things like traveling and dining out. Since I started working remotely, I've taken on more household duties, giving Jonathan the freedom to focus on his career. On weekends, he helps out, and together we've developed a balanced and smooth routine in our marriage. Jonathan and I first met on a group blind date, and his warm, welcoming smile caught my attention right away. After 3 years of dating, we decided to marry. Jonathan has been my unwavering support, always lifting my spirits with his smile. While we are happy, our marriage has faced challenges, especially with my in-laws. Jonathan's family owns a successful pasta shop that his father founded 17 years ago after leaving a corporate job. The business expanded into several locations across the city. When I first met Jonathan's parents, they wore flashy designer clothes, clearly more interested in making an impression than showcasing any personal style. Our initial meeting was when Jonathan and I went to announce our engagement, and from the start, I felt a sense of disdain from them. They made it clear that any daughter-in-law would do as long as she could handle the household duties without causing any trouble. They even bluntly suggested I might not be lucky enough to fit that role, which stung. Jonathan quickly defended me, and their attitudes softened a bit. It became clear that they were blunt, a trait common in the restaurant business, especially in a pasta shop. Fortunately, Jonathan has always stood by me, offering reassurance and support. Despite the strong foundation in our relationship, interactions with his parents can sometimes strain our happiness. However, I've chosen not to let their opinions affect me, especially since Jonathan has repeatedly apologized for their rude behavior. He's assured me that we only need to deal with them during major family gatherings. Over time, I've learned that Jonathan has always had a tense relationship with his parents. His father, a stubborn man who struggled in traditional work, grew arrogant after the pasta shop became successful. He often interfered with Jonathan's career decisions. Jonathan, respecting his role as the family's financial provider, left home when he started college, preferring minimal contact with them. Though he's grateful that the pasta shop helped fund his education, he doesn't want to be involved with them more than necessary. Since our marriage, I've had limited interactions with my in-laws, which has been easy since we don't have children yet, and we can avoid frequent family gatherings. We've been content with our life, but recently, the pasta shop has encountered financial troubles. In the past, a pasta shop could thrive with great food alone, even with a gruff owner, but with the rise of social media and online reviews, that's no longer enough. Their shop has been flooded with negative reviews, with complaints about the owner's rude attitude and the staff's untidy service. Their initial success led to complacency, which has now cost them dearly in terms of customer satisfaction. Popular dishes are now being compared unfavorably to others, and the bad reviews have been stacking up, significantly damaging their reputation. They refuse to adapt to the changing market, and now their business is failing, including the flagship store. Realizing the gravity of their situation, they surprisingly reached out to Jonathan for help. "Please, Jonathan, we don't know where to turn. If this continues, we'll end up homeless." Jonathan had seen this coming and responded firmly. "I told you this would happen. Arrogance has its consequences. You need to understand that customers are key, and if you treat them poorly, it will catch up with you. You ignored my advice, and now this is the result. You need to reflect on your actions." His words were hard to hear, but they were full of wisdom and care for his parents, which only made me admire him more. Despite their desperation, Jonathan made it clear that relying on us wouldn't fix the core issue, their attitude and outdated approach to business. Defeated, they left, only to return a month later, looking dejected and stripped of their luxury possessions. Even after selling everything, they were still drowning in debt. "Please, Jonathan, we have no one else. Can you help us?" they pleaded, their pride broken. As Jonathan stood there, arms crossed and thinking it over, I felt conflicted. While I've never been fond of my in-laws, seeing them so humbled stirred a mix of pity and reluctance in me. Their situation highlighted the complexities of family obligations and support, and I knew we had to decide carefully between helping them and enabling their poor decisions. Seeing their dire circumstances, I suggested, "Jonathan, What if we gave them a monthly allowance? My suggestion surprised both Jonathan and his parents. They looked at me in disbelief. Linda, are you sure? Jonathan asked, clearly taken aback. Yes, I said firmly. You've always wanted to repay them for helping you through college, haven't you? Jonathan hesitated but finally agreed, recalling his past intentions. I think I did mention something about that. His parents, desperate, seized the opportunity, begging once more. Jonathan, please, we're doing everything we can to pay off our debts. Could you at least help with our living expenses? After a moment of consideration, Jonathan agreed, deciding to transfer $3,000 per month. But knowing their situation was more urgent, I suggested, what if we increased it to $4,000 a month? Jonathan was initially hesitant, thinking $3,000 was enough, but I explained that my career had flourished beyond my initial job. Over the years, I had become skilled at investing in stocks and real estate, accumulating wealth and securing a solid income from rental properties. I kept this private, especially from my in-laws, as I funneled extra money through Jonathan to support them. This was as much for his peace of mind as for their financial relief. During one of their visits, Jonathan's parents thanked us sincerely. Thank you, Jonathan. You've helped us so much. Our lives are finally starting to stabilize, they said. Seeing their genuine gratitude and noticing small improvements in their situation was fulfilling. It reaffirmed the importance of family support, even in difficult times. Jonathan's parents' appreciation initially made him happy, and we both hoped it would encourage them to find work and start repaying their debts. However, a month later, they still hadn't found any employment. Soon, a more troubling issue arose. They started visiting our home frequently during the week. We're struggling with food costs. Linda, could you spare us some meals? They asked, arriving around lunchtime. At first, they would come, eat, and leave, but lately, they've started to linger, even requesting dessert, which began to strain our food supply and test my patience. I decided it was time to confront the issue. One day, as the constant interruptions were starting to affect my work, I asked, is this arrangement working for you, or do you need changes? I also have work to do, so it would be helpful if you didn't stay too long. I sat down with my in-laws to tell them that their long visits were increasingly disrupting my professional life. They exchanged looks and laughed it off. Work, you're always at home. If you're going to make excuses, at least make them believable, they joked, clearly not understanding the concept of remote work, given their extensive background in the food and beverage industry. I tried to explain further. Remote work means I perform my tasks from home using a computer, just like in an office, I said, but they dismissed me with a wave of the hand. We don't get this computer stuff, they admitted, showing no interest in learning more. Despite my efforts to explain my busy schedule, they remained unfazed. Linda, we're out of tea. Go buy some, will you? And don't you have any snacks? Maybe some rice crackers? They ordered, as if my time were completely free. Their comments soon became more personal and hurtful. What a useless daughter-in-law. You're just a housewife. You're so inconsiderate, they said, clearly unaware of the toll their words were taking, or that they had promised to find jobs and repay their debts. The tension was growing, and it became clear that they had no respect for personal boundaries or professional obligations. Despite claiming they were looking for work, my in-laws continued to impose themselves on our home, always leaving before Jonathan returned from work. Perhaps they were ashamed of their dependence on him or just wanted to avoid awkward conversations about their job search progress. I reached my breaking point and asked, is this situation manageable, or do you need anything changed? Even though I was contributing a large portion of the money we were giving them, I couldn't understand why I was being treated with such disregard. One day, fed up, I told them firmly, please leave now. They were taken aback, clearly not expecting me to take such a stand, but their surprise quickly turned to anger, their faces reddening with indignation. Who do you think you are? You're just a wife, giving orders to your husband's parents? They snapped. You're dependent on Jonathan's income, and you keep telling these ridiculous stories about working. How many times do we have to tell you that we don't care? Their voices rose in fury. I stood my ground, my frustration boiling over. I'm not just a housewife. Enough with your outdated views, I shot back. Their response was venomous, suggesting maliciously, You should just leave. Leave? I asked, taken aback by their audacity. Yes, it's because of you that Jonathan's remittance is so small. Do you know we're sending you $33,500 a month? What's your problem with that? They argued, showing no understanding of the financial burden or our situation. Their words left me stunned. It was clear they would never be satisfied, no matter how much we gave. Their sense of entitlement had blinded them to the reality of our efforts. As I stood there, speechless, they shot me a glare of pure disdain. How long are you going to stand there, daydreaming? Pack your bags already. Can't you understand what we're telling you? You're just a burden, a parasite of a wife. They sneered. Their words stung, but I knew arguing would get me nowhere. I replied with surprising calm, understood, I'll pack and leave. For a moment, they seemed taken aback by my response, but then they grinned, convinced they had won. Now everything will be fine. They chuckled. If it was just the three of us, Jonathan and us, everything would have worked out from the start. Ignoring their mocking comments, I began to pack my things, silently resolving to leave as quickly as possible while they departed with self-satisfied smiles. When Jonathan came home, I explained everything that had happened. He was shocked and angry. I'm really sorry, Linda, he apologized. It's okay now, I reassured him. I know they'll never change. It's just better to move on. We decided to move out. A couple of weeks later, my in-laws called. So, have you left the house? I tried reaching Jonathan about the remittances, but he's not answering, they asked, clearly eager to know. We've already left. You won't see me in front of you again, I replied coolly. I could hear the satisfaction in their voices as they said, ah, so our son can finally be free of you. Their laughter hit me hard, but it was also a moment of clarity. I felt a sense of liberation from their control. I knew that, without their manipulations, I could move forward with confidence. Jonathan's promise of increased remittances pleased my in-laws, and they laughed as they celebrated their perceived victory. A sigh escaped me, and I said sharply, you had a lot to say about me, didn't you? It might be worth realizing who the real parasite is. Their tone instantly shifted to anger. With that attitude, you truly are hopeless. You're probably not even our daughter-in-law anymore. You'll end up lonely and poor, they snapped. Their delusions were so deep that I didn't even feel the need to correct them. I gave a few vague responses and ended the call. The phone rang again shortly after. What is it now? I asked when I picked up. My in-laws sounded frantic, questioning me relentlessly. What's going on? We went to Jonathan's apartment, and someone else was there. You know something, don't you? Even if you two broke up, tell me where Jonathan is, they demanded. Jonathan, who had been listening in, took the phone from me. I've always been with Linda, he said firmly. Why are you still trying to cause trouble? And why have the remittances stopped? They kept pressing him. Maybe it's because you insulted my wife and tried to drive her away. I won't forgive anyone who hurts her, even if it's my parents, Jonathan replied, his voice unwavering. Also, did you realize that Linda was sending you more money than I was? Did you ever notice that? Jonathan asked, looking at me. Yes, I confirmed. I was sending $3,500 every month to help with their debts. But all they did was insult me. I'm not helping them anymore. Jonathan ended the call decisively. That was it. We had finally closed that painful chapter of unappreciated sacrifices and constant criticism. It was a necessary step toward protecting our peace and prioritizing our happiness as a couple. Jonathan made it clear. I'm cutting ties with you as a family now. Figure out your debts on your own. In a last-ditch effort, my in-laws begged. Wait, we didn't realize how much Linda was contributing. Can you forgive us? If we apologize, maybe you'll send money again? It's too late, give it up, Jonathan said firmly, ending the call and blocking their number. We were done. Later, we heard that my in-laws had to sell their house but still couldn't pay off their debts. Now, they live in a rundown apartment, struggling with low-wage jobs. When they had money from their restaurant, they treated everyone with arrogance. But now, when they were in need, no one would help them. Jonathan and I had done all we could. We couldn't support them endlessly. It was a consequence of their actions. I doubted they'd ever change. On a brighter note, Jonathan and I continued to cherish our time together. A year later, I was unexpectedly pregnant. Though it was a surprise, we felt incredibly grateful. With Jonathan by my side, we looked forward to raising our child, ready to embrace a new chapter in our lives filled with joy and hope. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Stay stunned.